Hi guys, welcome back to Princess Pulverizer Grilled Cheese and Dragons. We're on chapter 3. And if you guys need to catch up, go back and watch chapter 1 and chapter 2, okay? So here we are at chapter 3. Here, let me help you carry that heavy basket, Princess Pulverizer said the next morning as she came upon an old woman carrying a basket filled with potatoes. The princess grinned wildly as she spoke. She was just beginning her quest and hadn't got any further than the small village on the outskirts of Imperia. Yet already she found someone who appeared to need help. What luck! Princess Pulverizer tried to take the basket from the old woman's hands, but the woman wouldn't let go. "Get your hands off my basket," she demanded. "But you have to let me help you," Princess Pulverizer insisted. She pulled harder at the basket. "Let go of my potatoes," the old woman gripped to the basket tightly. "I need to do a good deed," Princess Pulverizer explained. She gave another tug and rip! The basket broke open. Thump, bump, flump. The potatoes fell into the mud. "Look what you've done," the old woman scowled at her. "My basket is torn. How am I supposed to get my potatoes home now?" "I'll help you carry them," Princess Pulverizer suggested. "That would be a good deed, right?" "I think you've done enough," the old woman said. "Go on your way." "Can I at least take one of these potatoes as a token to show my father that I tried to do a good deed?" Princess Pulverizer asked. "First you break my basket, and now you want to steal one of my potatoes?" The woman gasped. "I don't want to steal it, Princess Pulverizer began to explain, but the old woman didn't let her finish. "Help!" she shouted. "Thief!" A crowd of people turned and stared. Uh-oh, any minute now the sheriff would be there. Princess Pulverizer could stay and try to explain to him that she was a princess on a quest of kindness so she could go to the night school. But considering no other girl had ever gone on a quest like this or gone to night school, she figured no sheriff in his right mind would ever believe her. To him, she would just seem like a common thief, especially dressed as with a plain cloth tunic and cloak, carrying nothing but a simple knapsack. Oh, why hadn't she at least packed her tiara? If she stuck around, Princess Pulverizer could be in big trouble, maybe even wind up in the local dungeon. So the princess did the only thing she could. She ran off as fast as possible. Princess Pulverizer trudged her way up the hill. It seemed like she'd been running for hours. She was very tired, but at least now she was in another village, far from the old lady and her potatoes. She was safe. Unfortunately, nearly a whole day had gone by, and she still hadn't found a single person who needed her help. At this rate, her quest for kindness could go on forever. The princess knelt down by the nearby stream and took a drink of cool, clear water. As she drank, two women came strolling down the path. "The queen was absolutely beside herself," remarked the taller woman, who wore a pale green dress. "Some of the stolen jewels were gifts from her parents and her grandparents. They were priceless." "I don't blame her for being upset," replied her friend. "The velvet gem-covered box that held the jewels was stolen right out of her room while she was sleeping." "I don't understand how that could happen," the woman in the green dress said. "The queen's chambers are in the top tower of the palace. She locks her door every night when she goes to sleep. The only way into her room is through the window. That tower is way too high for any ladder," the woman in the gray cloak added. "The thief would have to be tall enough to actually reach in through the window and grab the jewels." Her friend laughed. "Not possible," she said. "No one in the entire kingdom of Schmergermeister is that tall. I doubt the queen will ever see her jewels again." The woman in the gray cloak said, "Who would be smart enough to know where to find someone that tall, or brave enough to get the jewels back from such a thief?" A smile began to form on Princess Pulverizer's face. She was smart, she was brave. This was it, her first task on her quest of kindness. All she had to do was find someone tall enough to reach into the high tower window, retrieve the jewels, and return them to the queen. Easy peasy. Well, it would be if she could figure out who the tallest person in the kingdom of Sugarmeister might be. The princess remembered once reading a story about a tall, scary ogre who lived in an old abandoned castle far up in the hills of a faraway kingdom. The ogre captured princesses and stole jewelry. Princess Pulverizer was in a faraway kingdom. Okay, not so far away, but there were hills all around her. Sure, the ogre was just a character in a storybook, but the storybook characters had to come from somewhere. Maybe there really was such a giant jewel-stealing ogre. Princess Pulverizer leaped to her feet and began searching the hills of Sugarmeister for an ogre. There was no easy task. The roads were steep and the ground was muddy. The tall leafy trees made the forest seem dark and gloomy, but Princess Pulverizer kept walking, searching for a giant ogre. Sorry, guys. Unfortunately, an hour later, she still hadn't found a single sign of one. This really stinks. Another dead end on my quest for kindness. Just as she was about to turn back, Princess Pulverizer spotted something on the ground. It was a footprint, a giant footprint, a footprint so large and so wide you could fit a family of 5 inside it and still have room for a dog. Up ahead, she saw another giant footprint, and another, and another. Princess Pulverizer followed the giant footsteps up a steep hill until finally they led her to the largest castle she'd ever seen. It was also the ugliest castle she'd ever seen. The wooden windowsills were rotting and lopsided. There were weeds growing all around it. It looked like a place that hadn't been cleaned in 100 years. It was the perfect home for an ogre. Quietly, Princess Pulverizer moved closer to the decrepit castle, making sure to stay hidden in the trees. Suddenly, a loud, deep voice echoed through the hills. "Shiny!" The princess jumped back. Whoa, that was scary. But Princess Pulverizer was brave, or at least she was trying to be. "I'm not afraid," she thought. "I'm not afraid." "So shiny," the deep voice boomed, even louder this time. Princess Pulverizer's knees knocked nervously. Her teeth began to chatter. Okay, maybe she was a little afraid, but that wasn't going to stop her. She kept walking towards the castle. She moved closer and closer and closer still. That's when she saw him, the ogre. He looked just like the one in her storybook. The ogre was big and scary and really, really hairy. Boy, did he need a haircut. The ogre was playing with some shiny gemstones. High atop his big hairy head, he wore a teeny tiny crown. Well, it looked teeny tiny on the ogre anyway. In reality, it was a crown that would fit perfectly on the head of a queen. She had found them, the queen's jewels. Now, all she had to do was get them away from the ogre, and she could return them to the queen of Sugarmeister. Grumble, rumble. Suddenly, the loudest thunder the princess had ever heard echoed through the forest. But the sun was shining, and there wasn't a cloud in the sky. How strange. Grumble, rumble. The ogre rubbed his belly. "Me hungry," he grunted. Now Princess Pulverizer understood. The thunder hadn't been coming from the sky at all. It was coming from deep inside the ogre's empty belly. It was time for his supper. The ogre stood up and headed into his castle. The giant door shut behind him. There was a click as the lock was turned. Now the jewels were in the castle, which meant Princess Pulverizer needed to go in there and get them. But how? It wasn't like ogres just invited knights in training into their castles. Or did they? See you in chapter 4, guys.